Yo, what's up? We out here yet again, Buff Missionary in these streets, and I want to talk about the purpose of mission. What is it for? Why do we do it? For a lot of people, it's this idea that I'm going to bring something that you don't have to you. Now, I think generally speaking, people have looked at missions as something like that, and I think from there it becomes very easy to see why things like the colonizing happened and why people associate their negative perceptions of mission to neocolonialism, all that kind of stuff, right? But the reality is, mission should be about listening first. And then once you've listened, then you can speak. Then you can provide something of value because you've listened first. It's not based on this assumption. It shouldn't be based on this assumption that I'm bringing something that you don't have, but it should start and end with listening. All right, doctoral vlog day 412. We out here getting it done in these doctoral streets. And we talked about anthropology today. Again, the study of humans. And I guess to frame even that statement, I know I said that in the last video too. This class is called Mission in the Social Sciences. So we're looking at how this theoretical concept and practical in some senses, this idea of mission relates to a very practical study and grounded area of anthropology, the study of humans. Now, the reason to me this is kind of significant is because Christians, and maybe Adventists in particular, often associate anthropology with evolution. So since Christians and Adventists in particular believe in creationism, which I believe, a lot of times this word anthropology, which is associated with evolution, gets discarded. And well, we don't want to study this because we have faith in this, and they feel like there's a clash of ideas there. But the question is, when it comes to relating to people practically today, because the mission isn't something that happens in a vacuum or just in theoretical space, it's something that involves people working with other people, it probably would be valuable to learn about other people that you're seeking to go serve if you want to have a positive impact or a great experience with them. So this idea, we had a presenter come who I think is from a university in London, and she's here doing some research on seminary students and some different things like that. And one of the points that she brought up was that mission should start and end with listening. Now, within the context of studying humans and understanding people in a better way so that way you can serve them better, I think that's invaluable. And again, it comes from this reframing, or at least for me, this clear understanding of what mission actually is. Mission being service and not simply I'm giving you the gospel or I'm giving you something. Service means I'm doing something for you. Sharing the gospel with you may be something I do for you and for your benefit, but it's not limited to that. And I think that's where Adventists or Christians in general may fall a little bit short and maybe a little bit short-sighted with how they view mission. And as a result, I think that's why people who are impacted by mission efforts end up having a problem with it or don't respond favorably to it. They look at it as you're coming in here trying to give me something I didn't ask for, which in many cases is true, while ignoring the actual needs of the people, which should be addressed and dealt with before you consider Maslow's, right? If people are hungry and they're thirsty and they're naked, they don't have any clothes, and I'm here talking about, oh, the gospel, it'll save you and you can go to heaven someday in the future, I may not be wrong about the goodness of that message. But how is somebody in that condition going to receive it at that time? And so what we end up doing is going in, and because I told you I did my part, but I never actually did any listening. I made the mission and the service all about me. And the fact that because I sacrificed to come to you, and because I told you this, because I took my precious time to do that, then I've done my part. And I leave, and I end up leaving somebody in just as rough of a situation as they were. And it's like my time there didn't exist at all. We can do a better job of listening first, listening to the needs, listening to the people, taking the time to study them and understand them and appreciate them, so that way we know the best ways to reach them. And then, oftentimes once those initial needs are satisfied, it may open the doors for something else to be shared later. But it doesn't always have to. But I would argue that mission isn't just doing something for a means to an end, and it's definitely not just sharing the gospel, but it's all of that. It's helping people to feel like they're cared for, that they have the things that they need, in addition to sharing with them the good news of the gospel of Jesus that I believe in. So mission should start and end with listening. I think we can all do a better job with that. You put yourself in a much better position, just generally speaking, when it comes to communicating with people, if you're more willing to listen first instead of just yapping at somebody. In an argument, your next argument or next discussion, let the other person talk first and just listen. And don't listen with the intent to respond and critique everything, but just listen and see how the conversation goes from there. It'll be different. We can apply the same thing with our efforts of reaching other people for Jesus. The other concept, asking questions. This is a part of listening as well, right? If you're listening to what people say, you're going to have to ask questions, and a lot of times these questions will be uncomfortable ones. Not necessarily for them, but for us as the people going out there. Why? Because we feel like we're supposed to be doing this other thing first, and these other things are just holding up the show. But no, we need to dwell in that and lean into that uncomfortableness, the discomfort, whatever you want to call it. And I think we put ourselves, again, in a better position of just relating to people better through that discomfort. Asking questions, asking uncomfortable questions in particular, it is a form of missions. And it's giving people the opportunity to speak for themselves. Once again, a lot of times the approach from missionaries is, I'm coming to give you something that you don't have. I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to hear from you what you don't have and what you need. And I'm making that assumption. You know what they say about assuming, right? Makes an ass out of you and me. Trust me, you're not trying to go out into these situations being viewed as some kind of ass, okay? Give people the opportunity to speak for themselves. You let them feel heard and listened to. And again, this doesn't just apply to something like missions. This applies to just basic human principle and communication. Any engagement that you have with somebody else is going to be made better if you give them the opportunity to speak for themselves, instead of assuming, putting words in their mouth, and then arguing against what you said they said and what you determined they meant by the thing you said that they said, and they never even get a chance to speak for themselves. It's kind of crazy. But throughout history, we've actually seen a lot of examples of this. And even today we see this. With social media, man, social media is such a good example of this. Not good because it's good, because a lot of social media isn't good at all. But it's a great place to see some of these errors and the lack of just basic communication skills that we have, right? You have, take sports media, for example. You'll have a player being interviewed for 20 minutes, and the clip that makes it onto social media or Instagram is a little 15-second reel of something that they said. And then this thing, not only does it get all these comments and clicks, and it's baited into something else as it's been taken out of context, but then you'll go and watch major TV networks in the morning on the next day, and they're talking about this clip that was taken out of context and trying to tell us as the listeners, well, this is what they meant and this is why they said that. When if you would go back to the source material and see the entirety of the conversation and that statement within context, you find out that they mean something completely different. But you wouldn't know because of what social media does to change the narrative and take away the actual meaning from that person. Give them a chance to speak for themselves. You'll probably have a better conversation and a better experience with what someone is trying to say and what they actually mean. Man, go on to any controversial post on social media and you'll see this happen where people start assuming left and right, oh, they meant this, so I'm saying this, and then you have other people who respond to those assumptions with other assumptions, and it just keeps on going. What am I saying? It's a bunch of asses on social media. But in reality, when you look at it, this is something that could be avoided if people weren't worried about being so quick to respond or having something to say first. If they would actually take the time to listen to the entirety of what someone has to say and even ask them, well, what do you mean when you say that? Because different words, well, the same words mean different things to different people. Get some clarity on that and listen more, and then you can have an intelligent conversation from there. While this works on the most basic of levels of human communication, don't you think it'd be more important if I feel like I have something of value that I want to share with someone? Shouldn't I be even more willing to listen to them and let them speak for themselves, so that way I can relate to them in a better way? I don't know. That's what I think. Glad my professors think that. Otherwise, I'd have to drop out of this program. Hey, doctoral journey, day 412. We out here and we still learning. But keep that in mind. Missions should start and should end with listening. And as humans, we can do better at that, just on the basic level of human communication. Let's do it. All right. To the next one. Peace.